This is the bitter story of how this rat head and these 6 other ones were stolen from China by European forces and only returned 140 years later. And by returned, I mean that most of them were actually bought back by Chinese collectors at auctions just to bring them back home. And honestly, I never thought I would be making this story, but I visited 2 places in China 1 year apart, one to the Old Summer Palace Yuanming Yuan in Beijing last summer, and 2, the Anhui Provincial Museum last week, and the pieces of the story sort of fell into place, so here we are. So these heads represent animals from the Chinese zodiac. There's 12 of them, and originally they sat around a fountain in Yuanming Yuan, which was this huge imperial garden during the Qing dynasty. This is how Victor Hugo once described it. Build a dream with marble, jade, bronze, and porcelain. Frame it with cedar wood. Cover it with precious stones, drape it with silk. Suppose in a word, a sort of dazzling cavern of human fantasy with the face of a temple and palace. Yuanming Yuan was an architectural wonder, but in 1860, this wonder was destroyed. British and French soldiers entered the site and they tore through it. This was during the Opium Wars and what was called the Century of Humiliation for China. They looted over 1.5 million pieces of artifacts and then torched the entire thing. The ruins are still there for you to see, for you to visit, and I kid you not, when you walk around, you can't help but feel bad. I'm not even European and I felt ashamed for what happened there. This is what the fountain looked like after everything. The statues were smashed and the heads vanished. And then 25 years ago, they began to resurface on the art market as stolen goods up for sale. This is insane. Like, it's bad enough they were looted and now the only way to bring them back home was to pay money for them. And so over $53 million were paid by a Chinese museum and a Chinese billionaire to buy back 5 heads. 2 other heads were bought by a rich French family from the collection of Yves Saint Laurent, then donated back to China. And the remaining 5 are still missing. Maybe destroyed, maybe with private collectors, we may never know. This isn't just a story about stolen artifacts. This is a story about the theft of a culture's right to reclaim what's theirs, and I know many of you out there can relate to that. There was no apology, there was no justice, but the only solace that I could find from last year to last week was that some of these heads have finally made their way back home, and as bitter as this story is, it is bittersweet.